Before I start the story, I want to tell you to subscribe, because only 2% are subscribers, and at 1,000 subscribers, I will post a special video. The starship descended smoothly through the cerulean skies of Earth, a sleek vessel of chrome and pulsating lights, destined for the sprawling metropolis known as Neo-San Francisco. Aboard this ship was Xylix, a third-year xenobiology student from the distant planet of Xeranthus. His mission was simple yet profound: to study the biological intricacies of the most dominant species on Earth, humans. Xylix's fascination with humans wasn't merely academic. Where others saw a primitive species, he saw a complex tapestry of emotions and physiological marvels, each more intriguing than the last. His goal was to integrate into human society, observe their behaviors up close, and understand the underpinnings of their physical form. As the ship touched down on the outskirts of the city, hidden from the eyes of the unsuspecting public by a cloaking device, Xylix prepared for his first day on Earth. He had learned their languages through simulations and studied their customs from intercepted broadcasts, but nothing could fully prepare him for the tactile reality of human life. Stepping out into the cool evening air, he donned his human disguise, a holographic emitter that cloaked his tall, slender frame and luminescent skin with the appearance of a typical human college student. Dark hair, a casual jacket, and a backpack completed the illusion. To any passerby, Xylix was just another student heading to university. He made his way to the University of Neo-San Francisco, where he was enrolled under the guise of an exchange student from a distant European country, a place obscure enough to avoid detailed scrutiny. His cover story was perfect for his purposes, providing him the freedom to interact and study his subjects at close quarters. His first class was Human Anatomy 101, an introductory course that he had chosen for its promise of providing foundational knowledge about human biological structures. As he entered the lecture hall, his eyes scanned the room, taking in the diverse array of human students. Some were engaged in lively conversations, others buried in their devices, oblivious to their surroundings. Xylix found a seat at the back of the room, where he could observe everything and everyone. The professor, a middle-aged human with a kindly demeanor, began the lecture with a discussion of the human skeletal system. Xylix listened intently, noting the similarities and differences between human and Xeranthian physiology. His datapad, disguised as a standard tablet, recorded everything, translating and storing information for later analysis. After the lecture, a group of students gathered around him, curious about the new exchange student. They introduced themselves with friendly smiles and handshakes, a common human gesture of greeting. Xylix responded with practiced ease, his training allowing him to mimic their behaviors accurately. One student named Mia seemed particularly interested in him. She was studying biomedical engineering, with dreams of advancing human medicine through technology. Her enthusiasm for the subject was palpable, and her inquisitive nature led her to ask Xylix about his interests. "I'm fascinated by the human body," Xylix replied, choosing his words carefully. "It's quite different from what I'm used to back home." "That's awesome. Maybe you can join our study group. We meet after classes to discuss our notes and prepare for exams. It's a great way to get deeper into the material," Mia suggested, unaware of just how deep Xylix's interest went. Grateful for the opportunity to further his studies in such an informal and revealing setting, Xylix agreed. As they parted ways, with Xylix's participation in Mia's study group proved to be an invaluable source of both information and subtle observation. The group met in a small secluded corner of the campus library, where books towered and digital archives flickered on holographic displays. Here, amidst whispered discussions and the occasional clatter of keyboards, Xylix delved deeper into the mysteries of human biology. Mia, along with her friends Jonah and Lila, often led the discussions. They would spread out diagrams of human organs, animated sequences of physiological processes, and complex charts detailing neural pathways. Xylix absorbed every piece of data, comparing it mentally to his own species' structures, noting where evolution had diverged and where it had strangely converged. One evening, the topic of discussion turned to the human nervous system, an area Xylix found particularly fascinating due to its complexity and its role in processing emotions. humans were capable of a range of emotions far broader than the Xeranthians, whose emotional expressions were somewhat muted by comparison. As you can see, the limbic system here is crucial for emotional processing, Mia explained, pointing to a 3D model of the brain glowing on the table. It's fascinating how our emotions are essentially chemical reactions and electrical impulses, isn't it? Xylix nodded, his disguise masking the glowing fascination in his eyes. Indeed, it's quite intricate. On Xeranthus, our emotional spectrum is more streamlined. Learning about human emotions gives me a broader perspective on sentience. Jonah, who had been quietly following along, chimed in with a question. So, Xylix, do Xeranthians experience anything like, say, love or fear? We do, but our reactions are more subdued. Our survival strategies evolved under different pressures, so perhaps there was less need for such strong emotional signals, Xylix explained, careful not to reveal too much about his species, still officially undisclosed to Earth's science community. The conversation shifted as Lila brought up the subject of pain receptors, detailing how this protective mechanism evolved. Xylix listened intently, aligning this information with his own planet's creatures, some of whom had developed unique methods to mitigate or amplify pain based on their environmental niches. As the meeting drew to a close, Mia handed Xylix some notes and additional readings. I think you'll find these interesting. They go into more detail about neurotransmitters and how they affect our behavior. Thank you, Mia. This is most helpful, Xylix said, his mind racing with ideas on how he could use this new knowledge to compare with Xeranthian neural adaptogens, substances his people used to modulate neural activity. Walking back to his apartment under the starlit sky, Xylix reflected on the evening's interactions. Every conversation with the group provided him not just with scientific insights, but also with a more nuanced understanding of human social dynamics and emotional depth. These were the layers of humanity that fascinated him the most: the unseen, the felt, the lived. Back in his room, as he deactivated his human, the following weeks found Xylix more entrenched in the academic life at the University of Neo-San Francisco. His days were a blur of lectures, lab sessions, and group studies. He had even begun to participate in laboratory research, a hands-on component of his studies that he found particularly enlightening. Today he was in the Advanced Genetics Lab, a state-of-the-art facility equipped with the latest in gene sequencing technology. Dr. Helen Zhao, the lead researcher and a pioneer in human genetic engineering, had taken a special interest in Xylix's quick understanding and insightful questions. We're working on isolating the genes responsible for regenerative healing in certain individuals. Imagine the implications if we could harness this for general medical use, Dr. Zhao explained, as she guided Xylix through the process of preparing samples for sequencing. Xylix was fascinated by the concept. On Xeranthus, regenerative abilities were common among lower life forms, but not among sentient beings. The possibility of applying such principles to sentient life was tantalizing and filled him with ideas for cross-species research that might benefit both worlds. As he pipetted a sample into a gel electrophoresis tray, his mind wandered to the applications such research could have on Xeranthus. Could the introduction of human-like regenerative genes into Xeranthian biology reduce the mortality rates from accidents or improve their overall health span? Xylix, could you input the data from today's sequences into the model? We need to see if the predicted protein structures align with our hypotheses, Dr. Zhao requested, snapping him back to the task at hand. Of course, Dr. Zhao, he replied, moving to the computer. As he entered the data, he subtly tweaked the parameters of the genetic model to include hypothetical Xeranthian DNA structures. The computer churned through the calculations, displaying a series of complex protein folds on the screen. Dr. Zhao peered over his shoulder, intrigued by the modifications he had made. Interesting approach, Xylix. I hadn't considered integrating alien physiology theories into our models. What led you to this angle? Xylix hesitated for a fraction of a second, careful to maintain his cover. It's purely theoretical, based on some speculative science I've read. I thought it might provide a unique perspective. Dr. Zhao nodded, her eyes alight with curiosity. Keep at it. Innovation often starts with the most outlandish ideas. Grateful for her encouragement and acceptance, Xylix continued his work, his thoughts racing with the possibilities of blending Earth and Zoranthian sciences. Later that evening, Xylix attended a university-hosted lecture on the ethical implications of genetic modifications. The speaker, a renowned ethicist, discussed the balance between scientific advancement and moral responsibility. The debate that followed was heated, with students and faculty alike expressing diverse opinions. Xylix listened intently, understanding that the ethical landscape on Earth was as complex as its biological one. He weighed each argument carefully, considering how similar discussions might unfold. During his time at the university, Xylix found himself drawn to the field of neurology, specifically to the phenomena of human perception and consciousness. To further his understanding, he enrolled in a specialized seminar that delved into the cognitive processes that define human experience. The course was taught by Professor Elaine Merrick, a neuroscientist known for her work on sensory augmentation. In this week's seminar, the focus was on sensory extension technologies, devices that could enhance or add entirely new senses. As Professor Merrick introduced various prototypes and theoretical models, Xylix was struck by the parallels to Zoranthian sensory enhancers, but noted the human versions were less invasive and more focused on integration with existing biological systems. For their project, students were tasked with proposing a new sensory device that could potentially expand human capabilities. Xylix paired up with Mia, who was equally enthusiastic about the project. Together they brainstormed ideas, eventually settling on a concept that intrigued Xylix deeply: a device that would allow humans to perceive ultraviolet light, a spectrum beyond their natural visual capacity. As they worked on the project, Mia's curiosity about Xylix's unique perspectives grew. "You always come up with such innovative ideas, Xylix. It's like you see the world differently," she remarked during one of their work sessions. Xylix smiled, careful to navigate the conversation without revealing too much. "I suppose it's all about stepping out of our usual boundaries, imagining how things could be different." Their project developed into a sophisticated design, incorporating a small wearable lens that could be attached near the eye, translating ultraviolet light into the visible spectrum. The device would also include a neural interface to help the brain interpret the new information correctly. As they tested their prototype in the lab, Xylix was deeply impressed by the human approach to technology: modular, non-invasive, and adaptable. The final presentation of their project garnered significant attention from both students and faculty, sparking discussions about the potential applications of such technology in various fields, from art to astronomy. Encouraged by the success of their project, Xylix continued to explore other aspects of human technology and thought. He attended various workshops and lectures, each adding layers to his understanding of human culture and technological advancement. One afternoon, while working in the neurology lab, Xylix had an unexpected breakthrough. He was examining data from a series of brain scans when he noticed an unusual pattern in the neural activity of subjects who had been exposed to their sensory extension devices. The pattern suggested a deeper, possibly instinctual level of processing that resembled findings from his own world. Excited by this discovery, Xylix spent hours in the lab, analyzing and reanalyzing the data. He began drafting a research paper that hypothesized a universal neural mechanism that could underlie sensory processing across different species, even potentially across different planets. His work caught the eye of Professor Merrick, who invited him to collaborate on a research project aimed at exploring this hypothesis further. Together, they designed experiments that would use advanced imaging techniques to study brain function in subjects using sensory extension devices. This collaboration proved to be a turning point for Xylix. Not only did it cement his role within the academic. As Xylix's semester progressed, the ethical dimensions of his research and interactions began to weigh heavily on him. The implications of his dual role as both observer and participant became more complex, particularly as he delved deeper into human and Zoranthian comparative studies. To explore these ethical challenges further, he enrolled in a bioethics course. The course was led by Dr. Avery Solis, a distinguished ethicist known for her rigorous examination of the moral issues surrounding biotechnology. The classroom discussions often veered into intense debates over the morality of genetic manipulation, the rights of sentient beings, and the responsibilities of scientists toward their subjects. Xylix found these discussions enlightening but also disconcerting. He often found himself questioning not just the ethics of human scientific endeavors, but also his own mission on Earth. Was it ethical to study another sentient species so closely without their consent? He wrestled with these thoughts, carefully hiding his personal conflict from his classmates. During one class, Dr. Solis introduced a case study that hit close to home for Xylix, a hypothetical scenario in which an alien species covertly studied humans to understand their biology and culture. The class was tasked with debating the rights of the humans versus the scientific benefits gained by the aliens. As the debate unfolded, Xylix listened intently to the students' arguments. Some emphasized the value of the knowledge that could be gained, while others argued passionately for the sanctity of unaware subjects' rights. Xylix felt a growing discomfort, realizing that these arguments mirrored his own ethical dilemmas. After class, Dr. Solis approached Xylix, sensing his unease. "You seemed particularly engaged with today's discussion, Xylix. Do you have any thoughts you'd like to share?" Xylix hesitated, then spoke carefully. "I was just reflecting on the fine line between curiosity and responsibility. It's fascinating how different perspectives can be, depending on whether one is the observer or the observed." Dr. Solis nodded thoughtfully. "Indeed, the perspective often defines the ethics. Remember, the best ethical framework provides balance between scientific inquiry and respect for all sentient entities. Perhaps consider this balance in your future endeavors." Her words resonated with Xylix, prompting him to reevaluate his mission. He spent the following weeks pondering his role, seeking ways to align his actions with the ethical standards he was learning about. Determined to find a middle ground, Xylix decided to enhance his research's transparency and seek ways to minimize any potential harm. He began designing a new phase of his project, one that would involve more collaboration with human scientists and less covert observation. He proposed a joint research initiative between Earth and Zoranthus, presented as a theoretical partnership to explore sensory processing in sentient species. The initiative would be based on hypothetical interstellar collaboration, allowing Xylix to gauge human reactions to such a partnership without revealing his true identity. The proposal was well received, and a series of simulated exchanges began. These were designed to be as realistic as possible, with human scientists debating and designing experiments with their Zoranthian counterparts, facilitated by Xylix. These sessions provided rich data and fostered a spirit of cooperation that transcended species and planets. Through this approach, Xylix managed to adhere more closely to the ethical standards he admired in his human colleagues, while still advancing his own people's knowledge. He realized that true understanding required not just observation, but months had passed since Xylix initiated the simulated interstellar collaboration, and the project had evolved into a robust academic exchange that was soon to culminate in a university-hosted symposium titled "The Future of Interspecies Scientific Collaboration." This event was designed to discuss the theoretical possibilities of cooperation between Earth and extraterrestrial civilizations, with Xylix at the helm, though his true identity remained concealed. As he prepared for the symposium, Xylix felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. The discussions would delve into theoretical frameworks, but were based on his real experiences and hopes for genuine interspecies collaboration. He worked tirelessly, ensuring that the presentations were engaging and the debates enriched with innovative ideas from both real and imagined scientific exchanges. On the day of the symposium, scholars from various disciplines gathered in the grand auditorium, buzzing with anticipation. The event kicked off with keynote speakers discussing the ethical, technological, and cultural implications of working with alien species. Xylix listened intently, his role as a moderator allowing him to steer conversations toward constructive and often enlightening territories. Mia, who had become increasingly involved in the project, presented a paper on the potential biomedical advancements through interspecies collaboration. Her presentation proposed methods of combining human and hypothetical alien biological traits to combat diseases, a topic that drew keen interest and lively discussion among the attendees. Throughout the sessions, Xylix felt a profound connection to the topics discussed, each speaker unknowingly weaving aspects of his hidden truths into their speculative scenarios. The theoretical nature of the symposium provided a safe space for radical ideas without the risk of exposing his identity. As the day progressed, a panel discussion on the limits of scientific knowledge exchange began, featuring leading philosophers, scientists, and ethicists. Xylix moderated the panel, posing challenging questions about the potential risks and rewards of such exchanges. The debate was intense, with perspectives clashing and converging in a dynamic exploration of human curiosity and caution. One philosopher raised a particularly poignant question. If we ever do encounter an alien species, how much of our knowledge should we share, and what should we hope to learn? Should there be limits to prevent cultural or biological contamination? The question struck a chord with Xylix, echoing his own internal debates. He watched as the panelists wrestled with the question, their answers reflecting a spectrum of hope and fear, optimism and skepticism. As the symposium drew to a close, Xylix gave the closing remarks, his voice steady, but his heart full of mixed emotions. Today we have explored not only the scientific frontiers but also the moral and philosophical boundaries of our quest for knowledge. As we ponder the future, let us strive for a balance that respects both our diversity and our shared quest for understanding. The applause was thunderous, the energy in the room charged with ideas and possibilities. After the event, many attendees lingered, eager to discuss the concepts that had been presented. Xylix mingled among them, his discussions peppered with thoughtful nods and insightful comments. Later, as he walked the quiet campus paths under a starlit sky, Xylix reflected on the symposium's success. It had sparked a dialogue that, although theoretical, had paved the way for broader acceptance of the idea of interspecies collaboration. He felt a renewed sense of purpose and a clearer vision of how he might continue to. In the weeks following the symposium, the university was abuzz with talk of extraterrestrial possibilities and scientific ethics. Xylix, however, found himself retreating more into the shadows of contemplation, grappling with the larger implications of his actions and the ever-present boundary between his true identity and his human facade. Late one evening, while reviewing data in his private quarters, Xylix received a communication from Xeranthus. The Council of Scholars had been monitoring his reports with great interest, and they were now urging him to prepare for a return home, his mission deemed a resounding success. Yet the message stirred a deep conflict within him. Earth had become more than a research assignment. It had shaped him in ways he hadn't anticipated. The next day, Xylix met with Professor Merrick to discuss the progress of their sensory extension research. During their conversation, she noted his distracted demeanor. "Xylix, you've been invaluable to our research here," she said, her tone warm yet concerned. "But I've noticed you've been somewhat distant lately. Is everything all right?" Xylix paused, considering how much to share. "I've been thinking about the future of our work and my role in it," he said, choosing his words carefully. "There are decisions I need to make about where I can be most useful." Professor Merrick nodded, understanding the veiled intricacies of his situation without prying. "Well, just know that your insights have opened new avenues of thought for us. Whatever you decide, your impact here will be lasting." His conversation with Merrick reaffirmed his commitment to his mission, yet the thought of leaving Earth filled him with an unexpected sorrow. Over the months, he had grown fond not just of the academic environment, but also of the people who had become part of his daily life. Later that week, during a casual outing with Mia and her friends, the reality of his impending departure became even more poignant. They visited a local observatory, where through the powerful telescopes, the night sky revealed the glimmering wonders of distant galaxies and nebulae. As they took turns peering through the telescopes, Mia leaned over to Xylix. "It's amazing, isn't it? To think there might be someone out there looking back at us, wondering about life on other planets." Xylix smiled, a tinge of irony in his heart. "Yes, it's a fascinating thought. The universe is vast, filled with mysteries we might someday unravel together. The evening was filled with laughter and speculative discussions about the universe. But for Xylix, each moment was bittersweet, each conversation a reminder of what he would soon leave behind. Returning to his quarters later that night, Xylix sat by his communication device drafting his report to Xeranthus. He described the academic achievements and the ethical discussions sparked by the symposium, but he also conveyed a more personal reflection. He wrote about the complexities of human emotion, the bonds formed beyond academic collaboration, and the profound sense of duty he felt towards both his people and the humans he had come to admire. He suggested that perhaps his mission shouldn't end with mere observations and reports. Instead, there could be a new phase, one of open dialogue and partnership between Xeranthus and Earth. Submitting his report, Xylix leaned back in his chair, his mind a whirl of emotions and plans. The night outside was deep and quiet, a canvas of infinite stars, each holding their secrets, much like himself, caught between worlds, yet belonging to both. As he watched the stars, he wondered about the future, about bridges yet to be built and the new horizons they would unveil. As the academic year drew to a close, the impact of Xylix's involvement within the university's scientific community had become significantly pronounced. His blend of theoretical knowledge from an alien perspective, though unknown to his peers as such, and human scientific methods had fostered a unique synergy in the labs and classrooms. This had not only advanced research, but also deepened the intellectual and cultural exchanges among the students and faculty. During this time, Xylix received a new directive from Xeranthus, much to his relief and satisfaction. The council had reviewed his suggestions and decided to tentatively explore his proposal for an open dialogue with Earth. This decision marked a pivotal shift in his mission, one that allowed him a greater degree of transparency and the possibility to reveal his true identity at an appropriate time. With this new phase approved, Xylix began organizing a series of advanced workshops and seminars under the guise of exploring hypothetical scenarios of first contact and interspecies collaboration. He invited experts in xenology, ethics, astrobiology, and other relevant fields to participate, creating a multidisciplinary platform that would subtly prepare the academic community for the eventual revelation of his origins. Mia, who had grown increasingly close to Xylix, became an integral part of organizing these events. Her enthusiasm and insight proved invaluable, and as they worked together, the bond between them deepened. Xylix admired her not just for her intellect, but also for her empathy and openness to the unknown. One afternoon, as they were setting up for a seminar titled Ethical Implications of Interspecies Communication, Mia paused, looking thoughtfully at Xylix. "You know, I've always wondered about you," she started, her voice tinged with curiosity. "You bring such fresh perspectives, almost like you're not from around here at all. Where do you really come from, Xylix?" Xylix hesitated, knowing this moment was inevitable yet unsure if it was the right time to reveal his true self. He looked around, ensuring they were alone, then met her gaze with a calm resolve. "Mia, there's a lot about me you don't know. I hope that in time I can share my origins with you and everyone here. For now, let's just say I'm very far from home, and there's a reason my perspectives seem so alien." Mia looked at him, a mix of surprise and intrigue in her eyes, but she nodded, trusting him enough to wait for the full story when the time was right. The seminar was a success, sparking intense discussions and debates about the potential and risks of communicating with alien species. The hypotheticals discussed were closer to reality than any of the participants realized, and Xylix felt a growing excitement about the future. As the weeks turned into months, preparations for revealing his true identity became more concrete. Xylix coordinated closely with his superiors on Xeranthus, planning the manner and timing of the disclosure. They decided it would take place during the next International Symposium on Extraterrestrial Life, giving it a context that would help frame the revelation positively. The night before the symposium, Xylix met with Mia, taking a quiet walk around the campus lake. The air was crisp, and the day of the symposium dawned clear and bright. a symbolic new beginning that resonated deeply with Xylix as he prepared for what would undoubtedly be the most significant presentation of his life. The International Symposium on Extraterrestrial Life was hosted in a grand auditorium filled with some of the most brilliant minds from around the globe: scientists, philosophers, government representatives, and the press, all gathered to discuss the future of humanity in a universe where other sentient beings might exist. Backstage, Xylix reviewed his notes one final time, his hands steady, but his mind racing with the magnitude of what he was about to do. Beside him, Mia stood supportive, her presence a calming influence. "You're going to change the world today," she whispered, squeezing his hand. Xylix nodded, grateful for her faith in him. "Or at least expand its horizons," he replied with a small smile. As he was introduced, Xylix took the stage, his figure casting a long shadow across the floor. The audience quieted, their attention fixed on him as he began to speak about the scientific advancements in understanding extraterrestrial environments and the theoretical frameworks for interspecies communication. Gradually, his presentation shifted from general theories to more specific, unprecedented disclosures. "Today, I stand before you not just as a scholar, but as a living testament to the subjects we've been discussing. I am not from your world. I am from Zoranthus, a planet many light-years away." A murmur rippled through the crowd, a mix of disbelief and awe. Xylix paused, allowing his words to sink in, then continued. "My mission was to observe and learn, to exchange knowledge that could benefit both our worlds." He clicked a remote, and images of Zoranthus appeared on the screen behind him. Its vibrant landscapes and advanced cities, technologies, and people, a stark contrast to Earth, yet undeniably real. As we consider the ethical, scientific, and cultural implications of contact with other sentient species, I offer my own existence as proof of the vast possibilities and responsibilities that lie ahead. The audience was spellbound, hanging on every word as Xylix explained his years of study and collaboration under the guise of an earthly scholar. He shared insights into Zoranthian culture, technology, and philosophy, drawing parallels and highlighting differences that could foster mutual growth and understanding. When he finished, the room erupted into applause, some standing, others stunned into silence. The reaction was mixed, but the predominant feeling was one of wonder and curiosity. The panel discussion that followed was intense. Questions flew from all corners of the auditorium, ranging from inquiries about Zoranthian science to the specifics of his journey to Earth. Government officials were cautiously optimistic, philosophers intrigued, and fellow scientists eager to discuss potential collaborative projects. Throughout it all, Mia stood by his side, her presence grounding him. When the day ended and the crowd began to disperse, still buzzing with the day's revelations, Mia and Xylix walked out together, the weight of the day's events settling around them like a cloak. "This is just the beginning, isn't it?" Mia asked, looking up at the stars now visible in the evening sky. "Yes, the beginning of a true dialogue," Xylix replied, his voice filled with hope. "Today we opened a door that can never be closed again. Where we go from here in the months following the symposium, the revelation of Xylix's true identity and the existence of Zoranthus ushered in a new era of interstellar relations. The initial shock and wonder had settled into a focused effort to forge meaningful connections between Earth and Zoranthus. Both planets were eager to explore the benefits of their newfound partnership, and Xylix found himself at the center of these historic developments. Xylix and a team of Earth's top diplomats and scientists worked tirelessly to establish the first intergalactic cultural exchange program. The program was designed to facilitate not just the sharing of technology and research, but also cultural and philosophical exchanges. Earth's leaders and the Zoranthian Council agreed that understanding each other's ways of life was as crucial as sharing scientific knowledge. Mia was among the first selected for a cultural exchange visit to Zoranthus. Her background in biomedical engineering and her open-mindedness made her an ideal candidate to represent Earth. As the day of her departure approached, the excitement and nervousness were palpable. "I can't believe I'm actually going to see your world," Mia said to Xylix as they walked through the newly established spaceport, a sprawling complex that served as the hub for Earth-Xeranthus travel. "It's going to be an eye-opening experience," Xylix replied, his voice tinged with pride. "You'll see the crystal gardens of Lumara, the archives of our history, and, of course, our universities." The interstellar vessel that would take Mia to Xeranthus was a marvel of technology, designed and built through the combined efforts of Earth's and Xeranthus's best engineers. It was sleek and efficient, equipped with the latest advancements in space travel, including a hyperdrive engine that made the journey between the planets possible in a matter of days. As they boarded the vessel, Mia turned to Xylix, her eyes wide with the thrill of adventure. "Promise me you'll visit Earth again soon. There's still so much we can learn from each other." Xylix smiled, squeezing her hand reassuringly. "I promise. This is just the beginning. We have created a bridge between our worlds, and I intend to keep crossing it." The departure was a global event, broadcasted live. People from all over Earth watched as the vessel lifted off, its engines glowing brightly against the darkening sky. Cheers erupted from the crowd at the spaceport, and from those watching remotely, a collective breath held and released in unity and hope. Back on Xeranthus, preparations were underway to welcome Earth's ambassadors. Xylix's reports and insights from his time on Earth had sparked a wave of enthusiasm among his people. They were curious and eager to learn from the humans, to see their technology and experience their culture firsthand. The cultural exchange program quickly proved to be a success, opening doors to numerous collaborative projects ranging from environmental conservation efforts to shared space exploration missions. Universities on both planets set up exchange programs for students and faculty, fostering a new generation of interstellar scholars and diplomats. Years later, Xylix stood once again on Earth, this time at an international conference celebrating a decade of Earth-Xeranthus relations. He watched as young leaders from both worlds discussed their plans and dreams for the future, their voices full of ambition and hope. Reflecting on the journey, Xylix felt a profound sense of accomplishment and optimism. The bonds formed between Earth and Xeranthus were no longer just diplomatic necessities, but deep, genuine connections that transcended their initial purposes. As the conference concluded, Xylix and Mia, who had become a prominent figure in intergalactic relations, looked out over the sea of faces, their hearts full. "We've done well, haven't we?" Mia asked, her voice filled with emotion. "We have," Xylix agreed, his gaze steady on the horizon. "Together we've woven a tapestry of stars, a testament to what can be achieved when worlds unite. And as long as the stars shine, there will